Welcome to LOGOS X RHEMA, a channel dedicated to the ministry of Apostle Arome Osayi. This is a place where the written word meets the living word of Christ, where revelation is unveiled, prayer is stirred, and hearts are set on fire for God. Our desire is to help you grow in intimacy with the Lord, to equip you with sound doctrine, and to awaken a deeper hunger for the presence of God. Through the teachings and prophetic insights of Apostle Arome Osayi, we believe you will be strengthened, transformed, and prepared to walk in the fullness of God's purpose for your life.
There are two types of believers: those that have accepted Jesus Christ, his saving power, his saving ability, and have rejected his governing power and his governing ability. Then we have another category of believers that have accepted both the saving power of Jesus Christ and the governing power of Jesus Christ. These two individuals are not the same. And after this age, the outcome of these two possible assortments of existence is what this parable attempts to decipher. So a man that is born again, that doesn't accept to be ruled from heaven. Yes, he's born again. There is nothing wrong with his salvation. He's a virgin according to the metaphor in this parable, but he's a foolish virgin. And the reason why this virgin is described as foolish, we are going to realize in a moment of time. As we have seen, every genuine believer has oil in his lamp. Because of the influence of the oil in our lamps, it's possible for us to access the mind of God. It's possible for us to hear from God. It's possible for us to enter into the economy of that which is obtainable in heaven. Anytime you hear the voice of God, you are faced with a challenge. And the challenge that you are confronted with when you begin to interact with the voice of God is called choice. Are you willing to surrender yourself to accommodate that will in your life? Or are you going to ignore the will of God? Because every intelligence that comes from the Holy Spirit is an avenue for God to administer government over your soul. That's how the kingdom is. He's expecting that as he takes you from, he might start with you, and then the major emphasis of his current dealings has to do with your relationship with your wife. He might focus on that for a while until there is a satisfactory disposition with respect to his idea that he wants you to sustain in your marital relationship. Then he moves to your finances and he begins to govern you. Begins to insist. For me, one of the most critical places in any accommodation you make available to me is the shower. Make sure that there's water coming from, because most of the time when I visit the shower, I receive instructions for the day. Send this one money, send that one like this. Even yesterday night. You see, God will always plot his graph consistent with his original purpose. God doesn't pioneer too quickly. He sticks with his original intent. That's how he can prove to you that he's God. The requirement for authority is that we ourselves will have to be subject to the authority of God. That is the only way we can wield authority over creation. So man was created as an entity that is capable of receiving delegated authority from God and exercising it to bring order to this ecosystem. They say God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. Gods there is small g. The first problem with this verse is that it says something that is very rare. And what it says that is rare is that God is standing. God does not stand. God does not need to stand, because God does not rule by strength. He rules by decrees. So most often you find him sitting on his throne. And within the limits of my biblical understanding and knowledge, God stood in the entire Bible twice. And this was one of the times. And the reason for which he stood in both cases is because he wanted to pass judgment. So if you ever see God in judgment mode, after the case has been ascertained, the culprit has been identified, before God gives judgment, he normally stands. So this is a court session. And the reason why he's standing in the congregation of the mighty is because he wants to judge. As we go on, you will realize that these gods are actually human beings that were given authority to represent God. Because that's the duty of man. He's supposed to be an entity that can receive divine authority, divine wisdom, divine capacity to represent God upon the face of the earth. And part of what it takes to represent God is the ability to manifest God's authority. So these guys were given authority to represent God. They were given the grace to participate in the administration of some of the purposes of God upon the face of the earth. But unfortunately, these guys decided to team up with Satan to use the authority that they received from God to afflict the people they were supposed to protect. Before God pronounces judgment, what he does is that he releases clarity. And just in case you wanted to know what judgment came out of this court process, you will find it in verse 7. But this is a moment of clarity. God is now revealing the original purpose for which he wanted man to operate. Is that clear? So this is a moment of clarity. So God is saying, I have said, ye are gods. That is according to the original plan. I was the one that ordained you as gods. If you are a student of the Bible, you must have seen how that God made Moses a god unto Pharaoh, small g, an authority figure. The authority that Moses wielded was superior to the authority that Pharaoh had, being the king of Egypt. Moses did not have any physical throne, but Moses wielded an authority from the realm of the divine, and that authority contradicted the authority of the throne of Pharaoh, and that authority defied the throne of Pharaoh, and that authority brought judgment on the throne of Pharaoh.
Welcome to LOGOS X RHEMA, a channel dedicated to the ministry of Apostle Arome Osayi. This is a place where the written word meets the living word of Christ, where revelation is unveiled, prayer is stirred, and hearts are set on fire for God. Our desire is to help you grow in intimacy